Well, we're back at FU Tommy Long LLC. Let's see where we are. We haven't done a lot of stuff since the last time we were here. Countertops have been I don't know what we're waiting for in the granite with those, but they're still not in. Got a little bit more dirt work done. So this right here, if you don't know what that is, that's a drain tile or a culvert. And what we're gonna do with this is we're gonna take this culvert and we're gonna be setting it right here across the whole driveway. So it'll go down, go across it. Probably by the time we set it on rock and everything else, I would say that's gonna bring this driveway all the way up to the road, if not maybe a little bit above the road, because that's a pretty high culvert. But it should be fine. We got the parking lot guy coming in maybe in another week and a half. So we're gonna come up the front right there with the parking lot. Then we're gonna just kind of go over both sides, and they'll be pulling in, they'll park right here, back up and leave.
Can they drive into the back?
No.
Okay.
Nobody will be able to drive into the back. I mean, I'm not gonna say they couldn't, but
it's not built for that.
No, it's not gonna be what we got it designed for sure. So this will be where the sewers comes in. So this pipe right here runs down there to the city sewer. So that piece of pipe will take all of the sewage that comes from the house and it'll all go through right there. So everything that's going in the toilet, everything on your washing machine, everything gonna come out there. You say, well, the pipe ain't very, very big, but it's gonna have a grinder pump, so it'll grind everything up into real small pieces and it'll throw it out there with pressure.
This wall.
You like it?
I like it. Very dividing.
Well, it lets the mayor know where his property line is and where my property line is, and just stay on the other side of the wall. It's gonna be like the Berlin Wall, only smaller.
Just a much smaller Berlin Wall.
Much smaller. We use them on construction sites for division. You'll see them on roads that they use them, not those type, but you know, these are designed to come in and actually do a retaining wall and build it where it holds it all together.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Would this
I can't tell you where I got those from.
Would this be an inexpensive retaining wall, or
no? This would be expensive.
Expensive.
I have a couple hundred of those, if not more. So they were free for me. I'm almost thinking that I need to come up with maybe one retaining block, 2 retaining blocks, and bring that up a little bit. I don't know. We'll look at it when it's done. It almost looks like it's missing that to me.
Missing what?
Whenever it slopes down and comes down, the dirt and all in the grass, I think it would look better if it went the other way.
The water, when it rains, though, currently runs down.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm looking at here. I think we're going to need to build this up another 5 or 6 inches. I don't want this to hold water.
Right. This
and looking at it from down there, it looks like it's going to hold a little water right here. So we're going to probably need to add a little bit to it. So we're far enough off of the ground, I'm not really worried about anything getting into the house. But I want everything to run this way too. I don't want to leave it. The gutters haven't been put on yet, so until the gutters get put on, what the hell is that?
What is that?
Huh?
What is that?
Well, it looks like they beat that piece of metal with a hammer.
That top right?
Yeah, you see that?
Yeah.
I gotta get me a picture of that because we gotta get that fixed. So if everybody understands, we're here all the time looking at this, and you still find stuff like that you didn't see because you look at it at a glance and you're just not paying enough attention to it.
Looks like a lot of things are already installed in that. Are they gonna have to deconstruct that and then put a new one? Like,
I don't know.
You can't just paint that or even
no,
hammer it.
They gotta fix it. So that's another thing right here. So we got people working on the floor, on the shelving and stuff. I hate that they're leaning that crap against your walls and then you gotta get it fixed. Yeah. You know, rather than not doing that. You know, fortunately everything looks like it's got rubber on it, but
still, that could easily.
But you see this right here. I mean, I don't know where this came from, but you know, all that's got to be fixed. We still come by and do a walkthrough and make sure everything's done in the end. You know, we still got to get another coat on that, on the baseboards and all, and we still got to put quarter round down too.
Quarter what?
Quarter round, little curved baseboard on the bottom. It'll be a finish, little finish touch to the floor. So we still haven't gotten the countertops in. I don't know. I think they said that they would be in this week. So hopefully they'll get those put in. So we're waiting on the countertops to come in so that the plumbers can come in and finish. So when the plumbers come in and finish, they'll come in and hook up all the water lines here. Then they'll hook up the bathroom water lines. They'll fix those 2 toilets that they got to fix. Where they got to jackhammer that out, they'll take care of that. And then once that's done, we will probably have the painters come in and finish everything. And the last thing I'm gonna do is the floor.
And it looks like we're just buffing this out.
Yeah.
Who does your advertising? Any advertising they do to get renters, to get buyers, any advertising at all?
They put it on Tenant Turner and companies like that, and those people take it, and I think we pay a monthly fee for it, and they broadcast it out to everybody. So it goes
Tenant Turbo.
Nah, Tenant Turner, I think it's called.
Oh, okay.
There is a Turbo Tenant also, but I think it's a Tenant Turner we're talking about.
Okay.
Now, I'm telling you that, but I'm not the one that does that.
Gotcha.
So that's not in my wheelhouse. But we don't call, and we don't deal with the newspapers, and we don't deal with all these different places. We have just 1 or 2 people we turn our stuff into, and they get it across the country.
Across the country?
It goes out nationwide.
Okay.
So
are they expensive?
You want something that, they're gonna put on sites that somebody that's in California wanting to move over here can find. I mean, that's who just rented the house over on McMurtry with somebody from California that found us in California. So, I mean, it's just
way beyond your local advertising.
Yeah.
That's
and
cool.
that works out well. We typically, we were just talking about rentals here. In this particular city, we don't have a single available property right now.
Okay. Really?
Not at the moment. I got one in Hendersonville that I still got that they've had a lot of contact on it. So I don't think it's rented yet. I think that's it. So then the only other places we got George Landon over in South Pittsburgh. It's got 2 vacancies in the whole neighborhood right now, I think. And in Smithville, I don't have anything that's vacant that hasn't been, we're rehabbing a lot of those properties still, so everything that's available to be rented over there is rented.
It's already pre-signed, like they're not in yet, but they've already.
No, I mean the houses that are available are all rented.
Okay.
So we're looking at it. We're looking at it now because I think we still got about 12 more houses, 13 more houses we got to rehab. So I'm looking at that, and I've been doing it just cash flowing it, but I'm talking now about going ahead and just go to the bank and get the money and finish it up and be done with the project. It's drug out for a year now.
Okay, you're kind of over it.
Well, and if we got that many vacancies, I mean, you're still talking, roughly $20,000 a month worth of income.
So instead of financing it yourself with cash, you're just going to go to the bank and pay the interest, but it'll all get done a lot faster.
Yeah.
And you're fine with that.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't want to drag it out to wintertime. I want to get it all done. So, and if we're floating cash right now to do everything, and we got new construction stuff going on, I got land we're buying, we got different things like that, and you eventually run out of cash.
Right.
So
just go get a loan from the bank and get it done
I'll
faster.
go get it. I don't like it, but I'll still do it.
All right, why do you build houses instead of buy houses?
I build because the numbers make more sense to me than buying one. I am a numbers-driven person, so I'm not making my decisions off of what I like. I'm not making my decisions off of what is pretty. I'm not making my decisions off of emotions. I'm making my decisions basically off of financing. If I go in and I build a house, can I make better money than if I go in and buy a house? And I can. Even if I go buy a junky rehab and fix it up, in the end, the new house will still yield me a better return.
Way better.
Yeah.
What was your biggest real estate mistake?
Not doing proper due diligence. And I think that if you talk to most people that do real estate, they'll all say the same thing. I mean, they get into it and you don't do your proper due diligence, and those are the houses that come and bite you in the behind. 2 years ago, did you have to do a lot of due diligence? Not really.
No.
Every house was a good deal. Interest rates were so low, it was very easy to finance and not have a high payment. So you could make stupid mistakes and still survive. But now you can't. Now your interest rates are so high, and they're not coming down. So the interest rates are so high that if you don't make a good decision, you're losing money every month.
There's no margin for error.
No, not right now. Not right now. That's why we say do the numbers. Run your numbers, run your numbers, run your numbers.
And if I wanted to learn the numbers, where would I go?
If you want to learn your numbers and how to do the numbers, you need to come to our class. That's June the 21st, 22nd, 23rd, right?
Yes.
And we will teach you how to run those numbers. We will teach you how to evaluate a deal. We'll teach you how to make sure that deal makes sense. I think they can watch the videos we got out there on it. I just think I'm shocked at how many people cannot run the numbers. I mean, people that do what we do, they say they can do the numbers, but they really can't.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a school or a class that I've ever been into that taught you anything like this. It seems
But I would still encourage anyone watching this to understand that education is not free. You're going to pay to get education somewhere. You're either going to pay somebody else to teach you something you don't know, or you're going to go out and learn that through trial and error, and your mistakes will be your price that you pay. In the end, it probably works out. I'm not going to say it works out the same, because I don't think it does work out the same. I think it always works out better if you got a mentor, if you got a coach, if you got somebody helping you, over going and trying to do it yourself, because you make a mistake and that mistake costs you $20,000, and if that's all you really got,
then you're out of the water real fast.
I mean, I was just talking to somebody the other day that crashed and burned in 2008, and they're recovered now, but how long has that been?
That's a long time.
Yeah.
What? That's 12, 14 years.
And well, there's people
15
right
years.
now that are over leveraged, that are losing their whole portfolios. Some of them will never recover. Some of them will just give up and quit. And some of them will just keep limping along and get it back over another 10 or 15 year period of time.
So people who are way over leveraged, are they essentially, spending too much money for how much they're...
Not necessarily. It's easy to get over leveraged. It's easy to go out and borrow more money and borrow more money. We're sitting here talking about borrowing to finish those houses. I could have done that a long time ago, and those houses would have been rented. I probably would have been better off if I would have done that. But I'm just kind of sitting there saying I don't want to do that just yet. I'd rather float it and do it, and float it and do it, and do it slow. Looking at it from the hindsight, had I went and borrowed the money a year ago when I did this, they would all be done and rented, and we would probably bring in at least another $20,000, $25,000 a month in cash flow.
And paying the interest fees on that money would have been totally fine.
Yeah.
It is just a little bit more risky, borrowing the money?
I don't think there's risk there. Your risk in your borrowing money is, we're in this duplex right now. You go borrow the money for this duplex. If you was buying it new, you're going to pay probably close to $500,000 for it. So you pay $500,000 for it. Now you got to make $5,000 a month to cash flow it. And you're not going to make $5,000 a month. You're probably going to make, $3,800 a month is what you're going to make on it. Maybe $4,000 after we get through this next year or so, that the rents are going to be a little stagnant. And so for you to go buy that and over leverage, you got to figure out what you're going to do, because now you got to come up with money every month to make this house work. And if you got to come up with money to make it work, where's that money coming from? So when I first started leveraging or first started doing it, my company supported me. My company was able to support everything that I was doing. So now as I look at it, I don't have anything that supports me but my rents, because I don't have another company outside of what we do here. So my rents support me. So I look at somebody else that goes into it. If they're working a good job and they got a good W-2 income, they may say, hey, I'm going to buy that, and it'll take me 2 or 3 years to get those numbers to work like I want them to work. But 3 years from now, they're going to work like I want. And I'm fine with pumping in, $5,000 a year to make it all work if that's what I need to do right now. So I'm not saying there's any of the leveraging is bad. The question is, what can you afford to do? What can you not afford to do? I don't think you should put any leverage on you that's going to stress you out. I don't think that it's not healthy for your family. It's not healthy for you. It's not healthy for anybody. So I don't, if I needed to, for you, you're young enough, I would say, bite the bullet, take your risk right now. If you fail, so what?
Right.
If you lose everything, so what? Do it again.
Right.
I mean, how many people do you hear about that's lost everything, multi-millionaires lost everything, and then built it back in 24 months? A lot of people. Really? A lot.
Well, how do you go from losing everything to then building it back up in
let's say you over leverage on your house, and then it causes a collapse of 4 or 5 different houses you got because you can't pay for this one, and then the bank starts calling notes. And the bank calls your note, you can't refinance it, they take your property away from you. Okay, so you lose it. So if that was what happened, the knowledge you got on how you built that portfolio is still in your head. And your knowledge of what you did wrong that caused you to fail is in your head too. So now you don't do that. You're not going to repeat that. You'll repeat the rest of it, but you just won't repeat that part of it.
So borrowing money to build a house is really actually just raising the price of the build of the house, which means you then have to rent it out at a much higher rate than if you were to build it all cash, because it would cost less.
So I had a guy come in that did a coaching session with me, came in. And we rode around and we did a property tour and we talked about everything. And he's doing some building. He's doing more rehabs. But he said, I can't find a rehab that works. And really, you can't find a rehab hardly that works. I'm not saying they're not out there, but they're few and far between. But as he's looking at running numbers on building a new construction, he looked at it and said, I can make those numbers work. You know, if you can have somebody, let's say you had somebody build you a house for $150 a square foot, compared to you going to buy a house that's already built for $240 a square foot.
Yeah, big difference.
Yeah, that's a $100,000 difference in value of the property. You're looking at it, and you got $100 a square foot difference, and you got let's say it's just this is 2,000 square foot here. So $100 times 2,000 is what? 200,000, right?
Right.
So the difference in the price of this house compared to what I would buy it on the street for and what I would have in it if I built it is $200,000 worth of difference.
That's crazy. So why don't people realize this and build a house? Like, why is all
I think fear stops a lot of people from doing this. I think they're so afraid of failing that they don't want to do it.
How can you fail on building a house? Like, what would they?
Well, we all convince ourselves we can fail in a lot of stuff, right?
Yeah.
It's just part of it. I mean, I think if you got the confidence in your numbers, we'll go back to the numbers. If you got the confidence in your numbers, then you should know exactly what your numbers are, and that is weighing every option, the good, bad, indifferent. It doesn't matter. You've got every option weighed, and that's what you're going to do. So I think that lack of understanding makes people not do it. Fear of failing makes people not do it. But how can you fail if you don't
try?
And just do your homework and do it. I was talking to somebody this morning who was talking about what they were going to do with their real estate portfolio. I said, I don't see it. I don't see you doing what you're saying you'll do. And I didn't see them doing it because they have no preparation. They have no goals. They're just going to succeed. Well, if you're running through life saying, I'm going to succeed at doing this, but I'm not going to plan it. I'm not going to go through the motions of figuring everything out before I do it. I'm not going to have the worst case scenario and the best case scenario before I start. So I know that I can live with either one of them. And I think that lack of planning, lack of preparation, people want to ignore it. Successful people plan. Successful people are always goal-oriented. They don't just fly by the seat of their pants. You may have somebody that does something and they do something and they make a lot of money with it, that did it spurred a moment by the seat of their pants. But an average person over any lengthy period of time that's an investor or very successful, they always plan. So if you're out there thinking about what you need to do, number one, you got to have a plan. Plan of attack, a plan in case something goes wrong, a plan if you got to get out of the deal, how can you do that? What can you do? How can you do it?
If your plan is to learn the numbers on how to do real estate, you should plan on coming to our seminar.
Yes, you should plan on coming to the seminar. But understand, how does an income property function? How does it work? How does it make you money?
And where would people be able to find this type of
Are
info?
you going to get rich right now if you get in real estate? No. Real estate is something that gets you rich over a period of time. I don't think it's not a get rich quick thing. And that's, half the gurus on the internet are saying how you can buy a house now and be a millionaire next year. It just doesn't work like that.
Right. Even if you're building houses, you built 4 houses a year, they've gotten $200,000 in equity almost instantly, and then plus some appreciation and equity. I mean, you still have to repeat that process for 5 years.
You got to repeat the process, and if you got that where you're doing 4 houses in 1 year, apparently you've already got your act together on a lot of stuff to be able to pull that off.
That is true.
But once you move it forward, I mean, can I see that person being a millionaire? I mean, in a couple of years, absolutely. But it's not going to be easy. It's not as easy as I'm just gonna go build 4 houses and it's over with. It just doesn't work that way.
Right.
Wow, look at that hill right there.
That's so much water.
If you think we ain't getting a ton of water off that hill, that's a ton of water.
And that's what you have to be mindful of.
Well, we're gonna cut that hill back there and try and move it over to here, I believe.
What is the fastest way a 20-year-old with 20K can make $1 million in real estate?
One day at a time. What's the fastest way somebody with $20,000?
Fastest way.
Well, the fastest way would be to stick it all into, I do not take this as advice, I'm just talking, okay? This is not me giving you financial advice about anything. If you've never read Robert Kiyosaki's books, my suggestion is you start reading his books. Read the Cash Flow Quadrant, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Read those 2 books, plus his other books. Understand that you can ingrain this in your head. He also has a game out there called Cash Flow. Cash Flow, you've never played Cash Flow.
No, I've not.
Cash Flow will mimic life. So Robert Kiyosaki's game called Cash Flow will mimic your life. So if you look at that board game, people go work their W-2 jobs. Then they will try and buy a piece of real estate and then try and buy another one. But it's very hard to go out and buy one piece of real estate and then be able to do another one if you're living off of your W-2 income. So you got to get an influx of money in there sometimes. Now his influx of money that you see, a lot of it comes from people doing some market trades, doing some stuff in the stock market to try and double that money. So my thought would be that $20,000 is not, what happens once they spend that $20,000? Let's say they're able to buy a $100,000 house, 20% down, that's the $20,000. Now they got a house, now what?
Now you have to rent it for 1% rule of 1,000 and.
Okay, so now they're working, they only got $20,000. Now they got this $100,000 house, $20,000 investment, and they're making, roughly $2,000 a year off of it.
It's not very much.
So how long is it going to take them to get another 20 to build another house?
10 years.
It does. So it just doesn't work. So that's another thing. We're talking about goals. We're talking about plan. We're talking about making everything work. That's your plan. Okay, how do I do that? Okay, I can get this house. Now what? I'm lost.
Right.
So I know people that will take that $20,000 and they will go in and they will flip a car or 2. They'll buy a car, needs a little bit of work, fix the car up, sell it, make a couple extra $1,000, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. They may go out and cut grass on the weekends, figure out something to make some side money because they need more money. They do that. Dabble a little bit in the stock market maybe, trying to find a way to do that. I mean, you got to make your money make you money. And you got to think outside the box for that. So I think some people will do it with a side hustle. Some people can do that if you did it with a side hustle. Let's say you had a side hustle, you was going to work every weekend for the next 12 months. You could probably take that every weekend for the next 12 months and have enough money to get you another $20,000 down on another house. So that would be, my story always links back to work your ass off, right? Anything I've ever accomplished isn't because I'm better than anybody else, it's because I work more hours, I work harder, I try to work smarter, I try to do things. I don't sit at home on the sofa. So if you wanted to do it and you're a young man, a young woman, and you want to do it, you got to find that side hustle that's going to bring you some more money too. And you just keep doing that same thing. You get married, you get your wife on board, y'all both got the same plan. Okay, we need 5 houses. This is the plan how we're going to do it. And we're not stopping until we achieve this goal. And then we'll reevaluate the goal when we get there and say, what do we want to do further? Because once you get used to that, you may say, hey, let's do it another 5 houses. Let's get 10.
It'll snowball.
It will snowball. I mean, so the $2,000 you got now next year, I said 2,000, right?
Yeah, if he saved
So let's say you're only getting 2,000. So the next year after the first house, now you got 2 houses that are bringing you 2,000. So now you got 4,000. But now you got appreciation off of 2 houses. And let's say it's only 5%. Okay, that's another $10,000 a year that you're making off of between the 2 if it's a $100,000 house. Then you got your principal pay down that you're getting, that the tenant's paying, you're not paying. So it all comes back And then now that you got 2, it's very easy to get that 3rd one the next year. And then after that one, now you could probably do 2 a year because you got some extra income coming in. You get to the 5-year mark on your first house and you got 5 years worth of appreciation. You may say, hey, at year number 5, I'm gonna pull that appreciation out. I'm gonna go buy another house. So if you bought 3 houses over a 3-year period of time, or let's say you only did 1 house over a 5-year period of time, and at the end of that 5-year period of time, you got 5 houses, or one house a year for 5 years. You got 5 houses. Now you say, I'm gonna cash out refi on the first house I got, and I'm gonna go buy another house. Then wait another year. Then the next house is gonna be 5 years, right? Cash out refi, go do it again. Now you're adding houses to your portfolio just by refining out of what you got.
Would that be technically called high leverage?
So I don't like high leverage, okay? But if it was necessary for me to get to my goal to do a high leverage, I would do it. At 56, I'm not interested in high leverage. At 27, high leverage should not be your biggest deterrent. You know,
Makes sense.
let's build the assets. But you need to have a point in time that you get to in life and you say, you know what, I'm done with the high leverage stuff. I want to start bringing in more cash flow. So then you change your method. I mean, it's an evolving. Our portfolios are continually evolving, and we're getting better and better and better at what we do, right? So as you do it, you will get better, and just gotta get that first one.
So if a 20-year-old has 20K, what number should they shoot for to be able to actually, get into real estate the right way? Do they need to somehow turn that 20K into 60K?
Well,
and that would be a good.
Unless they can find a house they can buy for $100,000.
Even then, is that $100,000 house worth it to you, or would you save up a little more?
I don't know. It's about the numbers. Do the numbers work?
Gotcha.
I bought houses that are as cheap right now as they're ever going to be.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
I know everybody don't like that answer and think that that's wrong, that the housing market's going to crash, but the housing market's not crashing. The housing market's going to keep going up because inflation's is going to keep going up. So it's got no choice but to keep going up.
What would you say to your 20-year-old self?
I would tell my 20-year-old self to get involved in real estate, and I would tell them to put everything I got in and just keep doing it. I got a son that's 24, so he's just starting to get a little feeling about getting into real estate and start doing some of that. It takes time. I mean, my own kids ain't doing it yet. So,
What do you think's stopping them, if you don't mind?
I think fear. My daughter's got 2 more years in college, so she'll do this when she gets out of college.
She's
I'm pretty
kind of
sure.
busy.
Yeah, she's busy. My son's just been trying to find his way. I think he's finally starting to see it. So.
Just needed some time.
Yeah, I think he'll be fine.
Go outside, see what other people do,
Well,
and then realize Dad had it right.
Yeah. Yep.
How do you find houses to buy? When you do buy houses,
So I will drive around and see a house that looks like it's falling down, see a house that doesn't have a meter on a meter basin, see a house that the grass is real high and they're not taking care of it. And I will find out who owns that house, and I will typically write them a letter, or if I can find their phone number, I will call them and find out if they would be interested in selling it. That is how I find almost everything that we do. I don't really do anything we don't pick anything up off of MLS really at all.
All of it's underground, or you're going out and literally on the hunt?
Everything.
Right. Are you allowed to stand on this?
Yeah, we didn't look at that, right? Don't let me forget my coffee cup.
We did look at it. It wasn't like.
But we didn't
done.
open it.
Oh, we never opened one.
So let's open this up. So this right here, what it has is, it has a pump that'll sit on the very bottom. I thought it had the pump in it already. I didn't realize it didn't have the pump in it yet. But it'll have a pump sitting on the inside. That pump will come up, and it'll have a discharge line going right there into this little inch and a half line right here. And then it'll pump it into there, run it out to the road. So whenever we were talking about all of the sewage will come in from this pipe right here.
Yeah.
It runs in here. The grinder pump will then, it's got a little impeller on the bottom of it that spins, a couple thousand RPMs, and it just grinds up everything into little pieces, little pieces of stuff. and then it throws it out to the road. So we'll get another picture of that next time we come over here. Hopefully they'll have the tank, have it in there. We'll pull it apart, look at it, talk to everybody about it. But everything from the house goes into this right here, and then it goes from the small lift station all the way to Nashville.
And is this a big one or a small one?
It's just designed for a house.
Okay.
So it's not a big one.
4 people?
I do have, well, I mean, you could have more than that in it. It doesn't matter. I mean, if you had 10 people living in here, that would handle it. I do have a lift station that I got to pump down that I got to go check out over at the duplexes. So everything comes out of here that'll run that pump. That'll be the pump motor. We'll wire in here. This light right here, if that pump fills up all the way, it'll have a float that'll come on and make this light come on, let everybody know there's a problem with it, need to call and have somebody come take a look at it.
Okay.
Now, one thing for us here, they changed the law, I think in 2016. The law was that the city maintained all grinder pumps in the city. In 2016, they changed it and they maintain any house that was built before 2016, any house after whatever month it was in 2016, we got to take care of it ourselves, which I think is a horrible thing. I don't think the people ought to be taking care of that. I think the city ought to be throwing an additional sewer fee on or whatever for maintenance of this, so that they got a slush fund to take care of it, because the average homeowner doesn't know what to do with this pump. This pump goes out. We just talked about, I got one down over at another property, and that property over there actually has 2 pumps in it, so one pump's working, so I got one pump not working. And with that not working, you know, you got sewage going on the ground, you got all kind of other stuff because people don't know what to do. I think the city needs to do it. And I think that cost needs to be passed on to the people, but I think the city needs to control it. So I'm looking at a red tag on my electrical right here.
51324.
So I don't know what that was for. They might have red tagged that. So you see this line right here?
Yeah.
Not that line.
Oh.
See the line right there going up the side of the house?
Oh, you're talking about this line?
Yeah.
This pipe?
Yeah. So they required us to put these 2 backflow preventers in. See the one right there and one over there?
Yeah.
Those are 2 backflow preventers. Did we get a picture of them the other day?
I don't think so. What is this?
This is a backflow preventer. So this is costing me $3,000 a house.
Whoa.
So they're making us put fire sprinkler systems in the houses, right?
Right.
So the fire sprinkler system in each side was about $3,000 a side, the whole house. Then they said, well, you got to put a backflow preventer out by the road. Okay, so we put the backflow preventer in because of the sprinkler system. If I had irrigation, I would be required to have a backflow preventer, but I don't have irrigation. So this backflow preventer is costing us probably about $4,000 whenever we finish with it.
To install.
To get it installed, we got to pour a little concrete pad right here. So the pipe right there, we didn't realize we had to put we were going to try and put these up there, but because we had to put them out by the road, now we got to worry about it freezing up. So now we got to have power here. So that's what the power is run out here, so that we could put some type of a pipe wrap on here to make sure it doesn't freeze.
Dang.
The box we got coming over here is stainless steel box, and the box itself is like $1,500. But that's additional cost, where everybody keeps saying these sprinkler systems aren't adding a lot of cost to the houses, so it doesn't affect everybody. Well, if this is adding $10,000 to my build,
Yeah.
per side almost, you know, I would say it's adding about $8,000 per side at least.
Jeez.
So if I'm at $16,000 extra, if I was going to sell this house, I would sell it for the $16,000 plus markup, right? I got to have markup in that.
Right.
So that's a huge cost.
At the end of the day, for the renter, it's another $20, $40.
Yeah. So that's why that line's over there, and I think that's why the red tag was up, because whenever they came out, we didn't have power out here, and they said, no, we got to have power by the backflow preventer.
Wow.
So they may not have got back over to re-inspect that.
So that's what makes it a big expense now. Now you have to equate another $10K.
Yeah. I mean, that's whenever you start looking at that, across the scheme of things, when you're trying to do something in an affordable housing range, it's just making, I mean, everything government does seems to make everything worse. They don't seem to
Right.
have the ability to do things that actually help people. That's because they don't, I think that's because they don't live in a real world.
Not at all.
Government employees live in a real world, but what they work with is they work with an infinite amount of money. They run out of money, you just charge the taxpayers more money, you get more money. So they have no reason in the world to be fiscally responsible.
Right. Because
Look at our country right now, printing money like,
no tomorrow.
Like there's definitely no tomorrow. And all that's doing is hurting the people, but they don't care. What do they care?
They're on another level.
What is the most profitable house to build?
A basic house. If you go in there and you build with 8-foot ceilings, that's going to be cheaper. You build something with standardized measurements in rooms. Having something 12-foot wide, 14-foot wide. If you make it 12-foot 6 wide, now you're buying a 14-foot board every time, and you're cutting 2 feet off and throwing it away just about. And so when you build, you want to build something that the house don't have a lot of, it's not cut up all over the place. Where you got a 45 wall here and then a wall that does different shapes and stuff. All that costs you more money. If you're putting crown molding up top, it's going to cost you more money. It really is a simple floor plan will typically be the cheapest house you can build. The more difficult that floor plan is, the more amenities you got in it, the more stuff that you got that looks really cool, but it really serves no purpose. That looks really cool, costs you money.
Perfect. Inexpensive, simple architecture.
What is the
housing.
difference between inexpensive and cheap?
The difference between inexpensive and cheap costs a lot less, but it's also just a lower quality material. And then inexpensive is a great quality material, but not one of the luxury versions of it. That was the best I could do.
Huh?
That was the best I could do.
Okay. I look at, to build an inexpensive house, we can build it just like what we just talked about. We can build a very common house that doesn't cut up a lot, not a lot of crazy stuff on the inside, nothing, no fancy stoves, no fancy refrigerators, no fancy counters, no fancy nothing. It's just a nice house, quality everything, quality lumber, everything done right. And you can build that house inexpensively. Or you can come and you can say, I'm going to build another house, but I just want to build a cheap house because I want more profit is what I want. I want more profit. I don't do that. Okay, I do not build like that at all, ever. Not for me and not for somebody else. So let's say you got a big box builder. And we talked about this because we got a builder that's building in our city right now that's putting walls on 24-inch centers.
Yeah.
So when you put a wall on 24-inch center, that's a 24-inch span you got for half-inch drywall. Every time somebody hits that drywall hard, it's going to knock a hole in it, every time. So for me, that's a cheap build. Because if you put the walls on 16-inch centers like they're supposed to be, you're not going to have near as much holes in the wall and things like that. But they don't care because they're not the end user. So I would view that as building a house cheaply, using the cheapest product you can have, knowing that it's not going to last longer. So this is brick. Brick's a lot more than vinyl. But you'll notice everything we build, we use brick.
Yeah.
And I use brick in everything I build because I want something with no maintenance. I want something, I don't view this as an expensive build because I put brick on it, but it's not, I would say the brick cost me twice what the vinyl would have cost me, maybe a little bit more than twice what the vinyl would have cost me. So let's say I got an additional $7,000, $8,000 in this with the brick over the vinyl. How long will it take me? I will save that money year over year over year, right?
Right.
Because I'm not replacing vinyl every time somebody does something. I'm over here pressure washing because it's got mold on it. They barbecue next to it and burn it, melt it. I'm not dealing with that. I'm not dealing with a lot of stuff that typical cheap builds you got to deal with. I just don't want to do it.
And the brick doesn't have to be made of gold leaf.
No. And we haven't decided what we're going to do with this brick yet, because this is a paintable brick. So we bought a paintable brick because we planned on painting this house.
And you haven't decided on what color or anything?
I'm not painting it yet.
Why?
Not ready to. I do not hear the cicadas.
You don't hear this?
My noise, my from shooting guns and stuff,
Oh my
I
gosh.
just don't freaking have to hear it.
You can't hear the cicadas right now.
Not at all.
They're everywhere.
I cannot even hear them a little bit.
That is super loud.
Is it?
Yeah.
Used to like listening to them. So I'm from Louisiana, and
Oh.
locusts are everywhere.
Yeah.
Year round, you got them over there. So when I moved here, the cicadas came in, this would have been in the early 90s, and they were loud. They were loud for a long time. But now I don't know, I don't hear anything anymore.
Do potential renters have to have a good credit score?
Do potential renters have to have a good credit score? For me?
Yes.
Absolutely.
And why?
So, you're getting us a bunch of hate stuff on this one.
Yeah, but it's provocative and gets people going.
So, for us to rent to you, you need to have a 630 credit score.
Okay, 630. That seems
That's not a
reasonable.
great credit score.
Right.
But I can't tell you the amount of people that apply to rent from us that's got a 300 credit score,
And we just can't
a
handle
400 credit score. So why should you not rent to somebody with a 400 credit score? I'm not saying everybody with a 400 credit score is bad, but I'm saying they're not making the best decisions if they got a 400 credit score financially. So I want somebody that makes the best decisions financially. If you bring somebody in with a 400 credit score and you evict them, they don't care if you evict them because they're like, I already got bad credit. What do I care? So you evicting me is not going to hurt me in any way. And then they're going to trash your house, you're going to evict them, and you're not going to have any recourse. You get somebody in there with a 630 credit score, they're protecting that credit score. They probably want to buy a house, they want to buy a car, they want to do other stuff. So because of that, they don't let you do something that's going to hurt their credit score. They're not going to do something to you to give you just cause to put a ding on their credit score because they want to protect that. So that is why we hold a credit score at 630 and try and make sure we got it. I just don't.
Yeah, it's a risk on your end. If you took someone with a 300 credit score, you put 20% down on a house and now purchased a house that's 100K or 200K, there's still a note that needs to be paid. And if they miss and then you miss a payment,
So look at
you
the
lose
house.
the house.
Look at a house we did the rehab on Beller, where their rabbits and stuff were shitting in the vents.
Exactly.
I mean, now I think those people had good credit scores,
Dang.
but they lived there for a year and did more than $40,000 worth of damage to that house in a year. I mean,
They were young. They were like 20s.
yeah.
So like that credit score is not actually accurate to who they are.
No, not yet.
Not yet.
But what we did with that house was, I mean, we definitely we're going after them financially for all of the money that they lost, so they're still paying that. And it will affect them for a long time. And it's just not what we want to deal with. If you notice this winter, we had, I think I had as many as 6 or 7 vacancies right here in this city. And we don't never have vacancies in this city. But they were vacant for months because everybody that was replying had shitty credit.
Wow.
And we just cannot, we are not willing to. I don't care. I would rather the house sit vacant than me put somebody in there not qualified.
Makes sense.
And that's what everyone who watches these videos needs to pay attention to. You don't make an exception because, well, I got to get it rented. You don't got to get it rented because if you got to get it rented, you might have over leveraged or something. You got to put the right tenant in there because the wrong tenant can cost you thousands on top of thousands on top of thousands of dollars.
Tens of thousands. 1 year and it cost almost 40K.
Yeah.
So it's worth it to just not put a tenant in at all.
All right, so here's something that I didn't know.
What?
So I went on a Jason Hartman cruise a couple weeks ago, right?
Yes.
And so I was listening to them talk about somebody trashing the property. And they were able to claim it on an insurance claim through the vandalism costs.
Okay.
Saying that the house was vandalized when they trashed it.
Because it showed an intentional
Yeah,
destruction.
yeah.
How did they prove
I have never filed a claim on anything like that. But from here on out, we probably will if it's a big claim like that.
What would it take to prove that it's intentful destruction as opposed to?
Well, I mean, if they walk in the house and the house is trashed, I mean, what else can they say?
Right. I mean, it's got to be intentful.
Yeah.
In a way, like,
Yep.
unless that person just actually lives that way, but like, then they're intentfully living that way.
Yeah.
This is all just bad.
Yep.
Have you ever had a house catch on fire and burn down?
I have never had a house that I have catch on fire and burn. I have had 3 different single wide trailers that have caught on fire and burned down.
Okay.
Now, one of them was a guy was sitting there smoking a cigarette, playing video games, and caught his bed on fire and burned the whole trailer down.
Jeez.
The other 2 trailers miraculously caught fire within 48 hours of the people we evicted being evicted out of the house.
Ah, there's some intent.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
Arson.
So I've had that happen. We've had that happen twice.
So what'd you do about those 2 people that committed
You got
arson?
no proof. You got no proof.
Really? Firefighters can figure out a lot of things.
Huh?
Firefighters can figure out a lot of things. They figured out that.
Well, they can figure out somebody burnt it, but they can't figure out who burnt it.
Oh yeah, I guess who. They can figure out how.
Yeah. And nobody's taking this little trashy $5,000 trailer and spending any time trying to figure anything out with it.
Insurance covered this?
I didn't have insurance on them.
Oh, so they just went.
Yeah, my single wide trailers, I've never put insurance on any of them. I just rented them out, and anything happened, I just replace them.
And would you advise anybody at the very beginning to do any of that?
Well, I mean,
If
so for me to look at that, I could look at what it would cost me to insure all of the units in that park, okay? And the cost to insure all the units in the park, I could have up to 2 of them burned down a year and me replace them and still be cheaper.
Then getting the insurance on all of them.
Yeah.
And that's every year. So if 3
Yeah.
years goes by,
And you don't have
you
an
can
instance.
afford for 6
Well-
of them to burn down.
And we talked about insurance on my cars. When I would buy brand new cars, I would always put just liability insurance on them because I had 70 vehicles. And if you
Right.
put that full coverage across all of the vehicles, I mean, in 30 years of being in business, I only had like 3 vehicles in 30 years that were totally destroyed. And I don't think but one of those was our fault. I think the other 2, other people's insurance company paid for it. So out of all that time, I had 1 vehicle that I probably paid to replace over somebody else. So I'd rather put liability on it and save that $40,000 a year in insurance that I was paying and just keep it. And we are looking at that right now here and on all the properties we own, how to self-insure.
It's like instead of getting iPhone insurance, right?
Yeah.
The $8 a month, if you just save that $8 a month, and now the first 3 years is at risk because you don't actually have it saved
Yeah.
up to fix the phone if it does, but after 3 years or 5 years, if you actually save that $8, anything that happens to your phone, you can replace it.
Yeah.
And it would be cheaper than if you paid them essentially $12 a month.
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, any insurance company out there is in the insurance business to make money, which means they're gambling that your house is not going to burn down,
Yeah.
and you're gambling that your house is going to burn down.
That's funny.
I have never had a house burn down.
Wow.
I've never had any house that has had any truly catastrophic issues. I mean, we had that roof on the house on Hogan Brand on Darby that came off with that big wind last year, which was a brand new roof that somebody put on it. They didn't put the right nails on it. But that's it. I mean, I don't have a lot of.
Squatters. What do you think of them? How do you deal with them? Have you ever had any? You got a story that was crazy?
So I know that I haven't dealt with this, but I know that people are having issues with people going into their houses that they got for sale. And people are moving into these houses. And then they try and throw them out, and they can't throw them out. They got to evict them out of there. These people got more rights than you think they got, which is not good.
Isn't that annoying?
I mean, the government seems like they're on their side. They're, even a tenant that comes in, and, we've had tenants that came in and paid the first month's rent and then take you 3 months to get them out, they never pay another penny. And then they just go somewhere else, and they look at it like that, and they say, okay, I'll pay rent 4 times a year.
Right.
But they give you all these lies anyway why they can't pay you. So then you give them an extra month, maybe you give them an extra 2 months, then you start the eviction process, and now you're 5 months into getting them out. Once you realize you have the wrong tenant in your home, that's the second you need to start getting rid of that tenant, because they're not going to get any better. If there's somebody that you know is going to take advantage of you, somebody that you know is not going to pay you what you need to be paid, just start figuring out how to get them out now.
Why does the government help squatters in every way possible against the
Why
landlord?
does the government help everybody who doesn't want to do right? Why do they give people free money? Because the people don't want to work.
Exactly.
I mean, I'm sorry, I think that is the worst thing we can ever do is pay people to stay at home so that they don't go out and work, because they just get in trouble. I can't give you any reason why the government does anything. None of it makes sense to me.
So do you have any other specific story about a squatter?
No, I haven't really dealt with it. I mean, we don't really have a lot of issues like that.
It's not quite the area for a lot of squatters. Millersville, Tennessee.
We just haven't experienced it.
Gotcha.
Now, we're very active on our properties too. I mean, so we're actively paying attention.
Gotcha. You're pretty informed.
Yeah.
Almost every week, you know everything about everything.
We know what's going on.
Why do you buy and build houses in a red state as opposed to a blue state?
Well, I wouldn't build anything in a blue state. I wouldn't rent any houses in a blue state. Blue states have a tendency to do just what we just talked about. They are going to give the renters all the rights in the world, and the landlords no rights. And I don't want to own a rental property that's in a state that isn't landlord friendly. Because as a landlord, these people are out there busting their asses to provide housing for people, and we already run the numbers right now. See, the numbers are tight.
Right.
They're tight as hell. But the government will still let these people stay in your house for free, knowing that you're losing money every single month that they're there. They don't care that you're losing money. They look at you as evil because you are trying to be successful. And there are so many landlords out there that are just barely scraping by, because it's a long game for them. It's not a right here, right now game. And the government don't care about those people.
And it's very stressful because, you miss a payment or 2 or 3, and then they call your note and you lose the house. And that entire 7 years that you've been working to do this, all got flushed down the drain.
You just lost it.
So it's extremely important to find somebody with a 630 or higher credit score, because you could lose the house. Like, people don't understand.
I think so. That's my opinion. All right, we're done?
I think we're good.
Let's go.
We got it.
I am starving. I was sitting there thinking, I'm about to throw up. I'm so hungry. Those are good questions.
Yeah, those were really good.